your contracts. All right, so this is, you know, we call it our cheat sheet for writing contracts. And this form can be found on the online storage under contract writing, and it's just, you know, your buyer worksheet is what it's called. All right. And what the worksheet is designed to do is so that when you're out with a customer, let's say showing a house, and they go, you know, we'd like to put an offer on this, you can pull this sheet out of your briefcase or out of your folder, and you can instantly ask them questions and fill in these blanks. Now, once you have these blanks filled in, you can write the contract later back at the office, at your home office, at a coffee shop, I mean, anywhere. You can write a contract from knowing this information. So what I want to do is just review this real quick before we jump right into transaction desk. So, of course, you want to write down the address of the property that they're looking to make an offer on. The upper section here is just so in case you're working with a buyer that you don't have their mailing address or email address. So, you know, let's say you just started working with them and you don't have a lot of information on it, remind you to get that information. Who's the seller? You know, do you know who the seller is? What personal property is going to be sold on the property? And then you can see right here we have the blank for purchase price. So what kind of purchase price do they want to make on that particular property? And then the next thing is how much do they want to put down as an earnest money deposit? And if they're going to be picking title, okay, and paying for title, the buyer then can pick who we're going to close with, typically. So you can ask them who they would want to hold the escrow. If the seller is going to pick the title and have the seller pay, you might have to do a TBA here, you know, to be determined. And then if there's any additional deposits, you can list them here. Finance amount, you can find out they're getting financing, balance to close. So this is, you know, looks just like your contract. If they're getting finance, you can just circle this so you know, yes, they're getting finance. What type? Are they getting a 15-year mortgage? Are they getting a 30-year mortgage? Is it an ARM, adjustable? You know, what type of financing? Is it FHA? Is it VA? I just need to know so that when I get ready to go to the contract, I can put in the type of financing that they want. Application date, have they actually made an application date yet? When would they like to close on the property? And if there's financing involved, I recommend 45 days. If they're paying cash, I mean, you could close as quickly as a week, but I would always give myself on cash deals at least 2 weeks. Is it going to be an as-is contract, or is it going to have repair limits? If it's going to be repair limits, is it going to just be the standard 1.5%, or am I going to just charge a dollar amount instead? And then the next section is who's paying for title? Is the buyer paying for title? And you can see here the buyer selects title and then who pays. So believe it or not, you can have the buyer select and the seller pay. But typically in the contract, whoever selects has to pay. If I have it like split, like what I just said, buyer picks, seller pays, I actually have to handwrite in an addendum in the addendum section of the contract. But I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know that it can be done. All right, is there going to be a home warranty? Who's paying for the home warranty? Is there going to be an inspection? Who's paying for the inspection? Well, most of the time it's going to be the buyer paying for the inspection, okay? But sometimes you may have to have something done where the seller has to pay. Like maybe you say, listen, there's a problem with the septic. We want to have the seller pay to have a septic inspection done. It's something that you could put into the contract, you know. Something like you could look at an that said, seller to provide buyer with a septic inspection report that the septic is good. So you know you could add something like that for inspections. Your inspection days, if you don't change it in the contract, is normally 15 days. But if there's a particular day they want to end the inspection on, you can put that in here. Also for termite inspections, And then you have all these possible addendums, okay? And so you need to know which addendums you're going to need to put with what type of contract. And again, we've provided you a list that can help you. So here is a list of all the addendums, and over here in parentheses is the explanation of when you might need that particular addendum. For instance, a condo addendum, if it's a condo, it's a must-have. So you'll see that there's a lot of must-haves, you know, if the property is a certain type of property. So I just want you to, you have to get familiar with these addendums. You have to know which addendums go with what type of property, okay? And so there's not that many here. So you want to, you know, make sure that you study this and learn which boxes are going to be picked out over here on the contract. Does that make sense?
Yes, I have one quick question.
Sure.
Okay, between an as-is contract and a FAR bar, how would you know which contract to fill out? Do you have to know your buyer to figure out if you should do an as-is contract or a FAR bar, or does it all depend on the property?
Great question. First, it depends on the property, because you got to start there. All bank, if you're writing on a bank-owned property, they're not going to accept an offer that has repair limits. So, you know, there are certain types of property that you have to write an as-is contract for. Okay, so first you have to eliminate those, and then it becomes the buyer's choice. If it's not a bank foreclosure or not a short sale, then it's going to be a buyer's choice. So it's a question that you have to ask the buyer. So would you prefer to write up an as-is contract, or would you like it to have repair limits? Let me explain the difference. An as-is contract allows you to cancel the contract for any reason up until the inspection period. But if we find something, you may not be able to get it repaired by the seller. You just have to either A, accept the property the way that it is, or we can ask them to reduce the price for that repair, and they will have the right to say no because it's an as-is contract. But then you have a right to cancel the contract and walk away. Now, if we have a repair limit contract, if the repairs come in under that limit, let's say $1,000, then the seller's obligated to spend $1,000 to make that repair, and the contract still moves forward. You don't have a right to cancel the contract if the seller's willing to do the repair, and the repair falls under the repair limit. So you don't have any out in the regular contract if repairs do not exceed the repair limit. And even if the repairs, you know, are more than the repair limit, if the seller is willing to pay for those repairs, then you still have to move forward and buy the property.
Right.
Is that the repair limit was down below there, right? Or was it?
Yeah. Yeah, the repair limit in the contract is standard 1.5%. So on a $100,000 house, we're talking $1,500. On a $200,000 house, we're talking $3,000. So if you left the repair limits blank in the contract, then the liability to the seller would be 1.5% of the purchase price. If the property is $200,000, that's $3,000 for each of these categories, not total, but for each. So mechanical problems, 1.5%, that's $3,000. Wood destroying organisms, that's $3,000. Open permits, that's another $3,000. That the seller is obligating themselves to spend to fix these issues that may come up.
What's the WDO repair limit? What is it?
Wood destroying organisms?
Yeah.
So it's like a termite?
Yeah.
Kano,
Yes.
termites, is it an obligation of the sellers always? In New York, it was an obligation of the sellers always. Is that true here?
No. If it's an as-is contract, there's no obligation to repair if it's an as-is.
Okay.
If it's a regular contract, then they would, again, fall into the repair limits.
Okay.
And it will be the seller's responsibility. But the buyer will have to pay for the termite inspection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Thank you, Kano.
No problem. All right, so let's jump over here and let's get into the MLS. So I'm taking you right from the start. I haven't even logged in yet. So we're going to go ahead and log into Matrix. Sorry, my password's so long. All right, so when you get logged into the MLS, you're going to log into Matrix, and then does somebody have a property that you would like us to, make an offer on?
Yeah. Let's do 5449 Creeping Hammock.
5449 Creeping?
Yes, Creeping. CREEPING. Well, it's not on the market, so you're not going to find it, right?
Well, I found an expired one.
Yeah, you did? 5449 Creeping Hammock?
Yeah, do you see my computer screen?
No, I'm trying to do it on mine.
Okay.
Shouldn't I be trying to do it? Oh, I found an expired one too.
Yeah, no, you should be following my screen so that you could see what I'm doing.
Oh.
But that's okay.
All right. Well.
All right, so here's the MLS.
Yeah.
That she was talking about. So we're going to go ahead and look up the MLS number here. And give me 1 second, and I'll be right back.
No, I didn't realize this thing expired. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
Did you get the listing? Did you get the for sale by owner?
Yeah.
Good boy. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I put the sign out and everything, and it really goes up on after Friday.
That's great.
And depersonalizing. I got to get pictures after that.
Yep, yep.
All right, so up on my computer screen, you can see that I have the property up. Okay. Yeah. So from here, you'll notice across the top, there's all these different menus. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is identify what kind of property I would be selling here. Okay. I can see that it's a single-family home. I can see if I come down here to the comments with the agent, I have an actual owner. It's not a bank, so I can see there's no real special things in realtor remarks. They don't have any disclosures up here because I don't see the stacks of paper that would normally be in this area right here. And so I'm pretty much ready to go to write my contract. Does everybody see the TD up here? If you mouse over the TD, it stands for transaction desk. All right. This is Form Simplicity right here, which is another contract writing software. We're not going to learn Form Simplicity. We're only going to learn transaction desk, okay? So from here, I'm going to click on transaction desk. And the reason that I click on transaction desk from that location is that because it auto-populates all the information into my transaction. It pulls the listing information over. It brings over the listing agent's information. And so now I don't have to go look all that stuff up. So now you can see here on my screen, I have the address of the property, the listing price of the property. Down in the bottom where it talks about participants, I can see I have a seller here. I have a listing broker here. I have a listing agent. I have a selling agent, which would be me, and then a selling company. So I have all this information already auto-populated. Everything looks correct. So the first thing I want to do to my transaction is make sure that all my participants are involved. I need to add my buyer. So let's add a buyer. So I clicked on the Edit button. I'm just going to go back to the overview. If I need to add somebody to the transaction, I can click on my Edit button right here. Okay, or I can come right here. It says, I would like to. And there's all these different things I can do from right here. I can also add a participant. I can do that from right here. So a couple different ways that I can add somebody to a transaction. I need to select what type of contact it is. I hit the Continue button, and here it is. This is where I could put in my form. So I'm going to put in John Smith. And John Smith happens to have a really nice email that looks very similar to mine.
Twin brother.
What?
Twin brother.
Yeah, twin brother. All right, so now you can see that I actually have my buyer in the system. So I can come back to the transaction overview, and now it's time to pick my contract and pick, what kind of information that I want. So I'm just going to jump back over to the MLS here for a second, because I want to know if it's in a homeowners association. So I'm looking down here in the homeowners association section, and I can see there's $150. So I don't know if it's required or not, but since there's a fee, I'm going to go ahead and assume that there's a homeowners association. The next thing I'm going to do is check the year of the property. It was built in 1979. Do I need a lead-based paint? Nope.
No.
No. Yeah.
70, what is it, 78? 70?
It's 78. So this is 1 year out. So I don't need a lead-based paint.
Got me on the 1 year, damn it.
Come on, Kevin, you're smarter than that.
Yeah, right.
All right, so I've identified the addendums that I need, right? I need an HOA addendum, and I don't need a lead-based paint, and that's pretty much it. Now, they didn't give me a seller's disclosure, so why don't we go ahead and think about adding a contingency for a seller's disclosure, all right? They didn't provide one to it. So if an agent doesn't provide one, you can add a contingency to the contract that forces the seller to provide one. Okay? So these buttons down here on the left-hand side are shortcuts to different components in the transaction. The Instinet forms over here, this is the forms, this is our our online filing cabinet for where our forms are. The document section is if there's a document outside of transaction desk that we need to incorporate into the transaction. For instance, if they had a seller's disclosure that I would download, save on my computer, and then upload into this transaction. Okay? So now we need to go pick our forms from our Instinet forms. So we can click on the button here on Instinet forms, or I can click on this Add Form button here. I'm going to just click on the Add Form button over here. And it takes me to my filing cabinet. Now when I open up my individual forms for my filing cabinet, I see all the different drawers in my filing cabinet. I don't need a listing, so I don't need Fannie Mae forms. I don't need a listing. I don't need a commercial form. Don't need an escrow form. Don't need a lease, miscellaneous contract, and addenda. And that's for FAR. This FAR office management, don't need that. FAR property management, don't need that. FAR residential contract and addenda, and then the FAR bar residential contract and addenda. These are the two filing cabinets that I work from, because I like to use the FAR bar more than the FAR. I'm going to open up the filing cabinet of the FAR bar. Now, most of the time, I like to write as-is contracts, but for today's purpose, we're going to write a regular contract instead of an as-is. So I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom, and you'll see here's the regular contract, residential contract for sale and purchase. Okay. Now I told you that we needed an HOA disclosure, so I'm going to hold down. I'm following the instructions right here. It says press and hold down the control key and use your mouse to select something else. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Homeowners Association. And then I told you that we can make the contract contingent on them providing a seller's price property disclosure. So we may have to add that here in a second because I'm not seeing it here.
What are you looking for?
Contingent on the seller's providing that seller's property disclosure. I may have to find it somewhere else. So I'm going to go ahead and add these forms, and now you can see the two forms that I've added to the transaction. And then I told you I wanted to add one other form, so let me go ahead and see if I can find that other form. And I don't know what it's called, so I'm just going to go ahead and type in disclosure. And I found 39 disclosures.
Yeah. Property condition.
Yeah, but I know I'm looking for an HOA disclosure. So I'm just kind of scanning through. Here's a property disclosure statement addendum.
Don't you have the HOA? You're looking
Yes,
for the.
he already does, Kana. You
Right,
already
yeah.
have the HOA.
I'm looking for the
You're looking for the property condition disclosure.
Yep. All right, so there's not one. There's not one that I see in that particular thing. So there's one for the CRIS, which is right here. So I'm going to see if I can add this one. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that one and see if that's going to work for my situation. So now that I have all the documents that I have here, if I click on this button that says auto-populate, I want you to read what it says right here, okay? So when I click on the auto-populate, now it's updated all my forms. All forms successfully updated. So when I click on the now I'm ready to start editing my transaction. When I click on my form, all the information that I had already put in is now showing up. And so that makes it really nice. So if you use your tab key, you can go to the next section in the contract. All right, so you don't miss a section. Real quick, over here on the left-hand side, if you see a star on the left-hand side, that means there's a blank in the contract and you can put something in there. All right, we're going to continue on down. The only thing that I don't like is when you're tabbing, you'll notice that I'm staying down here at the very bottom of the page. I don't really operate that way. I have to scroll and put I got it right here in the middle of the screen. So this section on line 22 is for personal property. And you'll notice that most of the personal property is already written in the paragraph above. The one thing that's not written down in there is the washer and dryer. So I always have to add those. I didn't see if the property had a pool. So I need to check to see if the property has a swimming pool. I don't see a swimming pool in the property. Courtyard.
They did. Would you include the pump?
I would just say pool equipment. The pump is attached and considered part of the home, like a fixture. But the Polaris that might be in the pool, or the vacuum hoses, or the broom sweep, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's pool equipment that can just be thrown in the back of a pickup truck and taken away. So what I want to do is make sure that they leave that for me.
Gotcha.
So if it had pool, I would add pool equipment. Now line 23 is a section where I can put in to exclude something. Okay? And for this particular example, we're just going to make a $300,000 offer. Okay? Initial deposit on a property of this size, I'd probably ask for about $5,000. All right, and we're always going to, will be made within how many days? 3 days from the effective date. And who's going to be the title company? We can go ahead and put TBA in here because we're going to have the seller pay for title. So I don't know what that's going to be. And you'll notice down here right now, this is showing up a balance as a cash buyer. We're going to do 80% financing. So I'm going to put in 80% down here. Now my numbers didn't calculate correctly. So now I need to figure out what to do with this number. So I need to figure out what 80% of 300,000 is. All right. So 80% of 300,000 is $240,000. So I can come in here and put $240,000 in my financing, and now my numbers will work. You see how that works? I actually changed the percentage to a dollar amount. Now, keep this in mind. I can go back and put my percentage in. But I'm going to have to come down here and put in my own number. Oh, it won't let me. Oh, they need to modify this form then. So my recommendation, if you're going to do this with this particular form, you're going to have to use the dollar amount like this. Just remember when you go to when you're doing your negotiating, if you change the price, you also have to change the loan amount because it's a percentage of the price. So if the price changes, the loan amount and the balance to close also change. So just keep that in mind. You can't just negotiate on the price. You also have to negotiate on the amount financed and the balance to close. So all three have to go with a counteroffer. Everyone, does anyone not understand what I'm saying? Excellent. All right, so time for acceptance. I'm going to put in here I want to give them 2 days to accept my offer, so I'm going to give them 2 days. Now keep in mind, this day does not mean they got to accept your offer by then. This just means that this contract can be withdrawn by the buyer after this date. Okay, and if the seller accepts the contract after this date, the buyer does not have to proceed, does not have to move forward. Because we're going with financing, I need to go out at least 45 days. So got 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this at the end of the month. Here. All right, and then you'll notice here, if it's left blank, it's 14 days, and I'm okay with that. This just talks about, being able to get flood insurance, and if there's a natural disaster, like if there's a hurricane within 100 miles of Florida, all the insurance companies stop writing insurance. So if you can't close a property because you can't get insurance, you automatically have 14 days to delay the closing until you can get insurance. So they just can't cancel your contract. They can't say, oh, well, you didn't close because you couldn't get insurance, so now you got to forfeit your deposit. No, there's protection in here to protect the buyer for something like that. The next box on 74 has to do with leasing the property. Okay, is the property subject to leases? Assignability, 99% of the time it's not going to be assignable. You can see here, now I'm down in the finance section, I need to check the box B. You're going to be getting a conventional mortgage. If I leave this blank, you're going to put in 30. All right, that's for the loan commitment date. I don't know if they're going to get a fixed or adjustable, so I'm going to give them an option for both. I'm not sure what their prevailing rate would be, so I'll leave that alone. And I know they're going to go for a 30-year fix. And if they weren't, I could leave this blank and it would automatically be for a 30-year fix. I always put the number 2 in here, even though before I make this offer, I'm going to have my client already talk with a lender, so I have a pre-qual letter to send with my offer. All right? Yep.
I can't see where you're at. I only see line up to 46.
Line 46.
That's where I'm stuck at. I can't see what you're doing below. Can you scroll up? Or is it just my computer?
You need to refresh your screen because I have moved the screen.
Oh, okay, let me go back to it.
Is anybody else having problems, or everybody else can see my thing? Kevin, can you see my screen?
Can I ask a question?
Can somebody else see my screen?
Yep, I just deleted it.
Jody, can you see my screen? Oh, I guess Jody and Kevin are talking. Well, anyway, hopefully you can catch up with the floor, okay?
Yeah, it's no problem.
All right, so now I'm to my repair limits. I can leave them blank at 1.5%, or I can put a dollar amount in here. So I'm going to put $1,000. And I put 500 in here. So you can see that I put some dollar amounts in here for that instead. So now I need to go ahead and designate who's going to be paying for title. All right, and we're going to go ahead and have the seller pick and the seller pay. There's no home warranty. that we're having put with the contract. And I always pick this box that says that the seller shall pay the assessments in full at closing. Just in case there are any assessments, the seller's obligated to pay and clear them out. Now, a lot of times they'll want to negotiate and have the seller pay any payments up until the closing date, and any installment payments will then be picked up by the buyer. Well, I want to, if that's the case, I want to see what those installments potentially could be. So this forces them to start looking to see if there's any installment paid things for me to pay. All right, the rest of this is disclosures. This is where, your mold disclosure, all these are your normal disclosures that fall into your contract.
Hey, Kano, did you try to ask Jody a question?
Yeah, she texted me.
Yeah, for some reason she couldn't answer. I had just received a call real quick that I had to answer, so I didn't hear. Weird.
Yeah, she wasn't able to unmute herself, I think.
Huh. Oh, there she is.
I may have had her muted on my side. That's why she couldn't answer. I just unmuted her from my end.
I'm trying to get on and I can't.
So these are explanations in the contract of what the different inspections are and the different things they can repair. Talks about the condition of the property, general repairs, wood destroying organisms, what that actually covers, your permit inspections, your closeout of your permits, your walkthrough inspection, and that's just to verify repairs. Repair assignments, just saying if there's warranties that go along with repairs, that they'll pass those along. This is just an explanation of the escrow agent. Professional liability just talks about our liability in the transaction. Default, it just talks about what happens if the buyer defaults and what happens if the seller defaults. If there's a dispute that arises, this is what everyone agrees to address any disputes. Any attorney fees, how they'll be paid during the process. And then it goes into explaining what title insurance is and easements and limitations, what a title examination is, what a survey is, what egress is, any leasing information that might be out there, any liens that might be on the property. Talks about the timing of the contract, that it's calendar days that are used, and that if the last day falls on a holiday or a weekend, it moves to the next business day. So it spells that out for you. It just talks about, acts of God, conveyancy, closing documents, the procedures, and how that's going to happen, escrow closing, prorations and credits, how they're going to handle those of the contract, access to the property for appraisals, inspections, and walkthroughs, risk of loss if the property were to catch on fire and burn down, do I still have to buy it? No. Is it part of a 1031 exchange? Just says that the contract's not recordable into the court of law. Integration or modifications of the contract, it just says that, we need to put those in writing. Waivers, riders, addendums, and loan commitments, applications, venues.
It would be nice if you stopped barking, Kano.
Pardon me? I didn't hear you, Kevin.
I said it'd be nice if you stopped barking.
Yeah, sorry about that. I can't control everyone else's mics on their end. They have to mute themselves.
Joking, man.
Just talked about foreign and seller, the first of law that could come into play in the contract. And then here are my addendums. We know that we're going to have a homeowners association addendum. And I don't see, like I said, I don't have an addendum for the seller's disclosure, so I'm going to put other. And I'm just going to put seller's disclosure. I want them to have one. Okay? So those are the two addendums that I'm going to have. Here's their signature page, and that's it. So this is all done. So now I'm ready to go ahead and come up here to File, and then I'm going to hit Save. And then I'm going to exit my editor that I'm here editing this document. And now I'm going to come to my homeowners association, and I'm going to fill out this information. Well, we know that it's in a particular community. It's in Westlake Estate. I can also, I can also click on here and look at the tax ID, but we'll just call it Westlake Estate Homeowners Association. All right. Oh, here it is, Westlake Estates. It already put it in here for me. The amount that I saw here was $150. It doesn't say when it's paid. So I'm going to just assume that that's annual. So I'm going to go ahead and put $150 in here and per year. And that's it. There's no special assessment, so I don't need anything else in here. So that one's done, and I just need to go ahead and hit Save. And then I would exit out of this particular document. And the last one is the property disclosure statement. So let's just read right here. It says, this contract is contingent on the seller completing, signing, and delivering a buyer a written property disclosure statement within 3 days from the effective date. Perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted just a little addendum. This is going to work for me. So now I'm just going to hit Save and then Close. No adjustments needed. So now I just need to exit. So I can come right here to my transaction overview. And now all my documents are done. Now, for instance, from this page right here, if I wanted to send this to Kano or Michael for review, I need to go to the next page. So let me go ahead and hit over here. I need to be in this screen just working with documents. And if that's the case, then I can come here and I can hit Email Selected Documents. That's what I want to do. So I can select all the documents, and then I hit the Go button here. And now you can see I have 3 documents. Send as an attachment, where you can send them as a link, send them as an attachment, and then I pick out who I'm sending them to.
Okay, now I have a question. Sorry, maybe this comes a little later. But after you, I guess you send them and you say it's good to go, then once you submit the offer, the buyer has to sell it or sign it before you submit the offer, correct?
That's correct. You don't submit the offer without signatures from the seller.
From the
Well, right, so as a new agent, you have to be able to send these documents over to Michael or me to review before you send them to the seller for signatures. Okay. So before you give it to the client, you want to send it to either Michael or me and have us take a quick peek at it to make sure the contract's right. Because the last thing you want to do is send the contract without broker approval. You know, being that you're new, if you're a new agent under 6 months, you want to have all your contracts reviewed before, you know, you send it to the client for signatures. Okay?
Yeah, okay. You said seller, so selling.
I'm sorry, You want to send the contract into review to the brokers before you send it to the buyer to sign. All right. So now let's say you've already talked with Michael or me, and the contract's good. Okay. Are you coming to make any adjustments that we may suggested? Now it's time to send it to the client for transaction data through Authentisign. So to use Authentisign, you click on this button within the transaction on the left-hand side. There's also Authentisign up here on the right-hand side. Do not do that. That's the wrong button. The button that you need to use is this one. So when I click on the Authentisign button, it brings me over, and it even starts the file name. And you got to remember, this is a transaction within the transaction. This is a process within the transaction. This is a signature process. So this is the name for this particular signature. So here's the address in here. It's going to be a sign in line type of scenario. If I had multiple signers, one signer would sign first, then the next signer would sign next, the next signer would sign next. Or you can have them sign all simultaneous, to where whoever gets there first signs their document. But I highly recommend the inline. That just seems to make more sense to me. So now once I have how I'm going to participate, the next thing, forget about the advance. The next thing I need to do is I want to click on participants. When I click on this button, I can add a new participant right here if I want to, or I can come to my transaction. Since I built a transaction, I want to pretty much use everything out of that particular transaction. So I'm going to click on the transaction date, and you can see all the different possibilities here. These are all the parties that are part of the transaction. The one that I'm looking for is my buyer right here. So this is the person I want. They're my remote signer. I don't need to be a remote signer. I don't even need to be a reviewer, okay? Because I'm the one doing the Authentisign, so I'm automatically going to get sent a finished file. But like if you wanted Michael or me to review the signatures, you could put one of us in here as a reviewer after the person signed. Again, let it all come in, and then so you can also send it to us a different way. So I've selected who's going to sign. I'm going to click on the Add button to the right, and now I've added them as a signature. And now you can see their name right here. And they're the only participant. Now I can go back and add another participant if I wanted to. All right, but I only need one participant here. Now it's time to add my documents that I need signed. So now I'm going to click on this button. You must at least one signable participant. I have a signer. Oh, I have them as a review. Sorry. I messed up. All right, so go ahead.
No, you're good.
Yep, so now I pick my document. Now I can bring in new documents if I want to, but because I already have the documents that I wanted, here I can go ahead and bring them in the sign. But let's just say I have them in a folder on my desk. I can actually upload a folder right here, right now, and bring in a document. So if I forgot something, I could bring it in. But for today, we're going to go right here to the transaction and select from my transaction. I want all these forms, so I'm going to go ahead and do all 3 of my forms. And then I hit Add. All right, so now it's saying the role of the buyer is this person. Yep, that's correct. And so now the system's mapping everything out. And the last thing is to go through is review my pages. So now I go to Design, and it takes all my documents and stacks them one on top of another. And now I'm ready for signatures. And because these were intranet forms, they already know where all the initials go, down here in the bottom left. So every place you're supposed to be an initial, the system already knows because these are intranet forms. But let's say they weren't an intranet form and I had uploaded them. I can then click on the drag and drop button over on the right-hand side. I can drag initial here and put it anywhere on the contract. So if I needed them to initial something here, I can do that. If I needed to text something, I could do that as well. And now I have a little text box that I could write stuff in. You gotta click once when you're inside there. I don't know why it won't let me write. Anyway, it won't let me write in here. Anyway, I'm going to delete it for right now. If I put something up, I can always just trash it right here. So, and the next thing that I'm going to need is like signature. So I can scroll all the way down to my signature page. And because this was an intranet form, it already did everything for me. So when I get to my signature page down here, it's going to already have the signature. Now, if it wasn't here, I can click on the sign here and drop their name. And if I right-click on it, I can add the stamp. So I do that by right-clicking. So you can kind of see that I added another signature box for this particular buyer. I did this as an example, okay? And so the rest of the form, again, is still completely all filled out. All the addendums are there, and so I'm completed. So now I'm ready to go ahead and I can hit next and finish my signing. There are other things that you can do. I can add text boxes. I can add things. I can write on it. I can highlight things. I can circle them. So, I recommend that you get in here and play with the things. So this is for marking things up. This is for putting in the signatures and boxes and X boxes and check things. All right? So once I have all my documents prepared, all the initials or signature boxes made, I hit the next button. And now it's preparing this document to send to the customer. And that's it. And now it's ready to send out the invitation. So I can go ahead, I can actually customize and change what it says down in the box if I want to. Okay, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and send out the invitation. And that's it. That's how easy it is to get it over to the buyer. So if you want to stay on for a few more minutes, because I'm going to continue on, I'm going to show you.
Hey, Kano.
Yeah.
Isn't there a charge for DocuSign or whatever we're calling this particular signature?
Yeah, the software to use AuthentiSign costs $39 a year. You pay it one time, and it's good for all year.
So, like, I don't have it. It's not on. I wouldn't have this if I was creating this document, correct?
Well, you would have it. It just would not let you send it to the customer until you pay.
Oh, I see. Okay. I have to go. I'm going to Bill Fust's appraisal at the board.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be 2 minutes longer. I'm going to show you what the customer looks like when what the customer sees when they get it.
Hey, Kano?
Yeah.
When you're done, can you go back to the property disclosure statement since I lost my computer issue, just to see what what it looked like and what you put in there?
Okay. So I'm logging into my online email, and I can see right here that I got an invitation to the sign. So this is what your customer gets, right? And you can see here, John Smith. It says right here, click the sign. So let me go ahead and click on here to sign, and now it's taking me to a website and showing me the signature block. There would be one other step that the customer would have to set up. This is the signature that I've picked. And now I'm here. I can review the document first, and then when I get right after I'm done reviewing the document, I can now hit the start button, and it takes me right here to the first initial, and all I do is click on it, and it takes me to the next initial. And I click on each initial as it just takes me through the document. I get to the signature box. I get all the signatures done, and everything's done. And now I'm completed, and all I did was follow my things. And then I hit the complete button. I can stay and review some more if I want. I just hit the complete. And that's it. I'm done. Oh, it says you're almost done. It wanted me to enter a password. Great. And boom, my transaction's been done. And now what it's done for me as an agent, if I click on the inbox, it may take a second or two. Now I just got it back. As an agent, I can see here that they signed the document, and I can click here, and I can now open the document. There you go. And now I can see down here at the bottom of my page with all my signatures. See the initials down at the bottom of the page? There you go. And so this is what you get back after the customer has it signed. So that's how easy it is to get an electronic signature. Okay? So my question is, play around with it. Do it to yourself. See the customer as well. And just follow through on that.